mask, just truth in the air. Laughs in the room, real talk everywhere. Late night thoughts say how we feel. This ain't for the fake, this is something real. Uncut conversations, new perspectives in the mix. Pull the curtain back, yeah. Time to drop the filter, listen close to this. Beyond the filter, we say it all. Real voices don't blow when the truth calls. With transcendence, no mix it. Same chest too. Pull up a seat, this one's for you. Beyond the filter, beyond the filter. Where the real ones speak. Beyond the filter, where the real ones speak. Where the real ones speak. Yeah. Yeah. Turn it up, let it breathe. No edits, no mask, just truth in the air. Laughs in the room, real talk everywhere. Late night thoughts say how we feel. This ain't for the fake, this is something real. Uncut conversations, new perspectives in the mix. Pull the curtain back, yeah. Time to drop the filter, listen close to this. Beyond the filter, we say it all. Real voices don't blow when the truth calls. With transcendence, no mix it. Same chest too. Pull up a seat, this one's for you. Beyond the filter, beyond the filter. Where the real ones speak. Beyond the filter, where the real ones speak. Where the real ones speak.
What's up, Dominique?
Well, hello, hello. Happy Thursday. We are back for
Happy
another
Thursday.
time. How are you?
I'm good. I just got in from New York this morning, well, this afternoon or this evening.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
So
Well,
what were
one
you
of,
you up there for work?
I was up there for work. I was doing press with Miss Pat. She was promoting some things she got going on. We was going to different shows. We went to Drew Barrymore show. That was really fun. We did
Really?
a lot of stuff.
Okay.
The Daily Show. We went to a lot of the spots and stuff.
I like Drew Barrymore.
I do too. She's so clingy. She's so eclectic in her own little way. Like you know, she like
Now, are you too young to know about Firestarter?
I don't know a lot of her work.
Okay. Because
I
that's when she
don't
was
know
a
a
little
lot of.
girl.
Yeah, I didn't realize she played in E.T. Somebody was telling me.
Yeah, she was the little sister.
Yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
remember E.T. as a whole like that. So Yeah. What did you do this week? This work?
Honey, that's all I have time for these
I know
days
that's
because once again, our final submission to the county was due is what it's due tomorrow. So I've been busy trying to make sure that everything that we had was needed for that because if you don't do it right, they'll reject it and send it back.
I know that's right.
Yeah, so I have no intentions. But other than that,
Make sure
just
y'all click like and click share. Thank y'all so much for joining us for another Thursday night. We are continuing our conversation from last week. We didn't get a chance to go over as much as we would have liked, so we asked some people to come back with us this week, and they obliged us, and we're so happy about that.
oh,
Um,
Gavin, I hope you're okay, sweetheart. Thank you for joining us
Gavin,
from your hospital.
yeah, get well soon. Get well soon. And Gavin, they don't have to put the lips on the same time they're creating the hole. Come back and get the lips later. If that's why you in there.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
don't
Dominique, you look under
start.
the
Don't start.
weather, huh? You look under the
Just just
weather.
just just a tinge. Because
Hey, Dante.
I'm a
Hey,
homebody.
Greeley.
And
Hey, Bishop.
I was out last Saturday and last Sunday. And,
Mhm.
and I'm going to admit my friend was there, Miss Tequila. And so I'm quite sure that, going in and out of the building, I was a little reckless. And I probably ended up letting myself get some colds and catch this cold. Either I was around somebody at the bar that had a cold.
Oh, well, you ain't sucking no mucus out of no penis, did you?
Oh no! Oh no! 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 No!
AKA
Not
nut.
as honey, not in this weather, honey. It's still just 16 degrees down here. Wind chill of 6 below. I can't afford to be. No!
Well,
No! No!
Dominique,
I don't need no. Mhm.
something happened this week. You dropped a promo.
I
Tell
did.
us
Look,
about
look,
it.
look, first of all, honey, to see myself back to this stage is very rewarding because I was a little on the plump side there for a while. Hey Chanel, I was a little
Oh,
on the
but you got
plump
your high
side
school
at
shape
first.
back now, baby.
Listen,
You got your
and
high school shape back. I saw it.
so yes, I am now going to
Thank you,
Continental
Bishop.
Elite as Miss Royal Continental. And this gentleman saw me and he was just like, "You need to be my queen." So because I
Mm-hmm.
had qualified, I
Hey,
did the
Raven.
contest, I had qualified, but he said he saw me doing something different, and I said, "Okay." I said, "Let's roll." He's amazing. He's an attorney.
Oh,
He's so
nice.
supportive. He and his husband, they are absolutely amazing. They've been really supportive. I'm ready. I'm ready. I have never been this excited about preparing because it's the preparation part I hate the most about
Yeah.
going to a pageant. But I
Right.
have never been this excited preparing for a pageant. But Antonio, he'll say, "You overthinking it again." He has to
Yeah.
rein me in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm
It's
excited.
it's
I'm
it's
excited.
it's easy to overthink it. It's easy to overthink it. You want it to be right. You get back in the ring. You throwing your head out there. So it's easy to overthink. But I'm so glad. And that weekend was so. Well, it wasn't a weekend. It was a weekday. That pageant was so many things. I just really feel like you got reintroduced at that pageant. And people was loving you all night long. And this is proof of this man said you ain't going as first run up. You going as my queen. And I think that's amazing. So
Yes, he
shout out
did.
to you for that. Um,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I know you just listened to Lil Kim, the queen bitch, supreme bitch, kill a nigga by
Mm-hmm.
any means, bitch.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Um, disease free bitch. But
Yes, absolutely.
do you listen to Glorilla?
I don't I've heard her music in passing, but I've never really sat and listened to anything that she's done.
Mm, well, she has 9 siblings, and one of them went to social media to tell her grievances about what she think Glorilla should be doing for the family, how she should be taking care of the family and stuff right
Mm-hmm.
here, right?
Right.
She thinks she's obligated to help their family. Says she only wants $2,500 to make this right. The whole family get a whole family $2,500, right? Um,
Gee.
uh, I know how easy it is to see people winning and shining, and to automatically think that someone is has made it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about that? You think that when you make it, are you obligated to take care of everybody that's behind you? Hey, Trey
Okay.
son.
Perfect. Great. 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 Yeah. I'm ready to talk about this. Yes. Real quick. Yes, I will be in Little Rock for 3 glorious days. Next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'll be in Little Rock at Club Sway.
Okay.
Weekend. Look for my big post tomorrow. Everybody, y'all have got to come out and see me. We're gonna have a great time. But no, I don't. Because here's the thing. Who's the person that put in the work? Now, if I don't feel you should be obligated to do so. But if
Mm-hmm.
you see fit that that's what you want to do, then yeah, then by all means, give to the family, because a lot of people, when they're trying to, be on the come up or whatever the case may be, um, it's how people treat you when you're on your way up. You ain't gonna be nothing. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I see what you're doing, but it ain't gonna work. It could have been those types of things. They probably wasn't paying her no attention when she
Mm-hmm.
was digging in the trenches, and then as soon as she had payday, they feel like she should do something for them because they're family. If in my opinion, unless it was maybe my mother or my father or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, but if you did not invest in me, in what I was doing before the big hit came, then what you get from me afterwards, it'll just be out of the kindness of my heart. But I'm not gonna feel like I owe you anything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. That's just me.
That's me too, because I know families see her doing her thing, and they see her on TV, they see her at the award shows, they see her, making music, dropping hit songs and stuff. But what a lot of people don't know is a lot of these artists don't have the money that people think they have, because it ain't like she got big endorsement deals, or like she don't starred in a blockbuster movie, and she's doing strictly music and features and stuff now. She's still trying to
Mm-hmm.
get her money up, and you want her to take care of the entire family. She said, "My mom's still working at FedEx. She still clock in." Glorilla hadn't made enough money to retire her mama. If I retire you, that means I got to pay all your bills and your leisure. You
Hey,
know,
Miss Kim.
hey Kim.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate when people get their penny in a bunch, stick it, because what happens is these people have love you too, Kim. These people have broke mindsets. You can get them $1 million, they'll be broke within a month or two, because they're gonna go out and buy everything to show up and floss with and carry on
Mm-hmm.
with. And and it's not about you giving them something. You got to give them more than money. You got to give them, like, if you're gonna give them anything, give them a job if you can. And even when you give them a job,
Yeah.
they get mad because they want to make what you making. You can't make what I'm
Yep.
making. You're not doing what I'm doing. I be around
Absolutely.
celebrities. I watch how their families want to like drain them. They need something all the time. It's like they're incapable of stepping, up as an adult themselves. They want somebody to just take care of everything. They can. You buy me a car. Don't buy me no any car. This girl said, I'm embarrassed going outside getting it. They calling me. They know that I'm her little sister. And what's up, Will? Hey, Reggie. And I'm getting into a Malibu. But bitch, you got a ride. What's wrong
Hey,
with a
Rob.
Malibu? What, Mercedes?
Hey, Rob. I will send that to you, Rob. That's the co-owner of Miss K Americas in here.
Oh, Rob, you need my cash up to my Venmo.
Rob Mansmith. Oh my God. Anyway, okay, I got excited. Sorry.
Shout out to Rob, man.
But
Hey,
the question
Anthony.
is, but here's the thing though, Trent, though, is that after you pay, you get the check.
Yeah.
After you pay all of your expenses,
First of all,
you
let's stop there.
pay.
You got to
Okay,
pay
go ahead.
taxes first, which they tax those celebrities on big old. When you're in a certain bracket, they taxing you like 40%, down at 40%, right? So if you're
Yes.
making $1 million, they taking 400,000 off top. Then you got to pay all your people. You know. Hey, Sean. So I don't know. Hey, Joshua. I don't know.
But which you can testify to, because we've had this conversation. What family think they see and what's reality are two different things.
It's two different things, because
Two
you don't
different
know
things.
what I got to pay. You don't know how I got to break it down. I remember Taraji P. Henson, she broke down her pay one time. She got from The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. She said she made $150,000 off that. She said she had to pay taxes first on. That took half her pay. She said she had to pay her managers and stuff 20%, not 20% of what she had left over, but the 20% of 150. She said she probably had about $30,000 left after all that was over, and I think she paid that on her son's education or something. But they see her in the movie, they automatically just think, oh, she's rich. She got this. She got this. Lord forbid you pull up in a nice car or show a nice house. A lot of this shit be rented, And when you see those videos, a lot of those cars in the videos are rented. The jewelry is rented. It's just to make it look rich, So I hate when people try to blast people for not taking care of them, because can't nobody take care of no grown-ass person for the rest of their goddamn life. You got to get up and go get you a damn job. I remember when I first started in this business and I was working with celebrities, my family thought I had hit the jackpot. I'm like, bitch, I don't make what they made.
Right.
I'm hired motherfucking help. I'm the help.
But you
and y'all hit me up because I'm taking a picture, or I'm at the Grammys, or I'm somewhere. Y'all think that I got money to pay your bills? Like, motherfuckers don't ask for $20 no more. They need $300, $400, and $500. I need $1,200. I need $1,800 for what? I'm not giving you that, bitch. But I hate that she went to.
They get old to them because they're family. They think that the family owes that to them.
You owe me. You obligated. I cannot be obligated. Right, Giselle? They don't even know what she make.
Child, obligate this pussy in your mouth. Do that.
Oh.
But anyway, I shouldn't be talking like that because I'm going to a pageant. Sorry.
Oh. But you gonna have your pussy with you, so you can talk about it. Yeah, but I hate that. And then I hate going to, like, this child went to TMZ with the stuff, and really tried to make her look like bad. But ain't nobody feeding into that shit, because baby, go create your own life and get your own money.
And not to mention, she looked like a hot mess.
She's like a hot mess. Get the fuck out of here. Bitch, if y'all eating ketchup sandwich together, this time put a tomato on it. Shit. Go work.
Right.
You have to get two jobs. Make your own way. Because people like to help people that's helping themselves too. That's how God is too. You make one step, he'll make a few more for you and get you in your directions and stuff. And then people just want you my rent due. Can you pay my rent? But if I pay your rent, who's gonna pay it the next month? Do I gotta pay it the next month too? No, I can't do that. And we can stop talking. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
We sure can.
I'm okay with that. So Dominique, it was so nice we had to do it twice. What we talking about this week? And who do we have?
Well, this week, of course, last week we kind of did a preamble to set everything up, just to give people a little back information about politics and what kind of got us to this place. But today we're going to get into the Trump administration and everything that is going on right now and how it is affecting culture. And then what is our path moving forward. And so today we once again we have Kendall Keontae with us. We have Mr. Del Rio Cole with us. And so they were both so wonderful last week that I was like, hey, let's run it back. Let's do this again.
Hey.
Hi. How are you all?
Doing well. How are you?
I am well. Thank you both for joining us once again. We're very grateful.
Thank y'all for
Once
having
again,
us.
And thanks for having us.
it's just the continuation of what I believe to be a very important conversation, and I'm just ready to dive right in. And I would love to start by if someone will, kind of explain to the audience the three branches of government and how they are supposed to work together through checks and balances. If one of you wants to take that away, because that's going to lead into my next part of conversation.
And you want to take it?
You got it. Go ahead.
All right. So, so of course, there are three branches of government. All three branches of government, they check one another, right? That's what we call checks and balances. So, you have the legislative branch, which is made up of the House of Representatives. Um, we have 435 representatives. They are apportioned by population. We also have the other branch of government, the other part of the legislative branch, which is the Senate, which is made up of two senators from each state. That does not count the District of Columbia. It does not count any territories like Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, or any of those areas. Though they are still Americans, want to make sure we make sure that we understand that Puerto Ricans are Americans. They are not Mexicans. They may speak the Spanish language, some of them, but they are American citizens. Um, and so that is what the legislative branch is. And then we have, of course, the executive branch that is made up of the president, his cabinets, and all those affiliate areas that are inside the executive branch. So the Department of State, the Department of Defense, Department of Justice, the Department of the Interior, and so on. And then we have the judicial branch, that is the Supreme Court, of course, the Court of Appeals, the circuit courts, all the way down to state and local courts. The judicial branch, and I'll just go backwards since I worked my way this way. The
Okay.
judicial branch was set up to interpret the law. That is all they're there for. They're not there to make the law. They're not there to give. Um, they're there to give context to what the law that the legislative branch has written. They're there to give context to that law. Um, you have judicial appointees who are considered liberal,
Hey,
some are
Joshua.
considered conservative, and of course that depends on which their values, what they value, what their train of thought is, what type of political history they have, and so in that you have on either side more conservative justices who they believe in the letter of the law, they believe in how it's written, so
Mhm.
they don't believe that there's any interpretation of it. Let me put a caveat there. At one time, conservative justices did not believe in interpretations of the law. They believe in just what the law says, we read it, and that's what it is, right? So the Second
Mhm.
Amendment, the right to bear arms, they just believe in that blanket. They don't understand that the right to bear arms may look different because, of course, when those rights were when that right was put in place, there were bayonets. They were using bayonets at the time. They didn't have these
Mhm.
semi-automatic weapons that we now have. So there's some differences in what the Second Amendment looks like now. Um, so the judicial branch, their job is just to interpret the law. The legislative branch, their job is to make the law, right? Any bill starts in the House of Representatives, it moves to the Senate.
And Morris.
Anyways.
Once the bill is then, you know, most bills start in committees inside the House of
Mhm.
Representatives, then they move to the full House. It is voted on in the full House. It then moves to the Senate. If the bill stays in intact the way that the House voted on it. In the Senate, they will vote on it, and then it will go straight to the president's desk. If it does not stay intact and the Senate change anything inside the bill, it goes back to the House of Representatives to be voted on again, and then from the House of Representatives, then it will go to the president's desk. That's that's the quandary we find ourselves in a lot of times in our government. And finally is the executive branch. Their job, and I say there because the president may be the head of state, but he is a part of the executive branch. He is not the only one. I kind of gave my take on that once before, but he is a part of the executive branch, and their job is just to execute the law, right? That those laws go into effect in these particular areas of the executive branch. So if a law takes effect and it has something to do with international law or our international relations, let me say that international relations, and of course that will
Hey,
be
Tamika X.
executed with the Department of State. So it just depends on where that stuff, depending on what the bill is, uh, this certain part of the executive branch will then execute that law, that policy, that article, whatever it is. So that's just kind of a
Okay.
snippet.
A snippet. That was really good. So I'm pre. I want to move into a very important question. Then, if you are a party that has no lead, you're not the leader of any of those branches. You don't have the presidency. You don't have control of the House. You don't have control of the Senate. What power do you really have? Because what we're hearing is that every time something comes up, everybody's saying, why don't the Democrats do something? Why don't the Democrats do something? So explain how, because it to me, when you don't have the majority, it's a negotiation game for you. And you have to hope that you can get some of the people from across the aisle to believe in what you're standing for and get them to vote on your side. So, either one of you, just please touch on the fact that what power do they really have other than to express how they are feeling in these moments and what they would possibly do if they were to regain control?
I'll start with just saying that first and foremost, we have to understand that elections have consequences. When we don't show up and we don't vote, we basically give our power away. Our vote is our voice. Our voice is our power. Going back to, well, let me go ahead and answer the question first. As far as the power that we have when we're in the minority, the only thing that's holding this country and democracy together right now is the judicial. If it weren't for us being able to file lawsuits and different things to get restraining orders and to stop certain actions from this particular government, this particular administration, like we'd be in a world of hurt. But I also think that we have to understand from an election standpoint how we get these different branches of government. For instance, the legislative branch, which is the House of Representatives, and the Senate, as Del Rio said. As far as the House of Representatives, that's something that's done on a more local basis. It's done district by district, whereas the Senate is voted on statewide, same as the presidential elections. As far as the executive branch, which covers the presidency, that is voted on, statewide elections. And we can get more into that later, I guess, about like the electoral college and things of that sort, and how you actually come into power. From that, of course, the vice president is voted on with the president, and then the presidency has the opportunity to pick whatever cabinet he wants. Now, when it comes to the judiciary, you have to remember that the Senate is the person who confirms your Supreme Court judges, as well as your federal judges. And then on a statewide level, as far as your state courts, that's where your local elections matter the most. In order for us to understand how power is gained, or how we handle when we're not in power, we have to understand the importance of the local elections and how we actually get these representatives or these elected officials into office. So yeah, as far as the power that we have, I think that it right now, one of the major things that's keeping us together is the fact that prior to President Biden leaving office, he made it a point with Chuck Schumer to confirm as many judges as he possibly could before he left office. In fact, the last few months, that's pretty much all they were doing in the Senate because they knew we're going to lose control of everything for the most part, and that we had to have some form of a check and balance. Had he not done it, people don't give him enough credit because had he not done that, a lot of the things that have prevented this administration from just going completely rogue, wouldn't be in place to handle it. So the power that we have is really just the judiciary right now. We can always count on just trying to get political leverage, and that comes with, like, for instance, the situation that's going on with ICE and the community being, well, the country, the world being in an uproar of what is going on. That gives us political power and the ability to make demands. That's how you've been able to see things like with the Epstein files and discharge petitions, where we're able to pull people from the other side of the aisle, in order to get enough votes to bring things to the floor, even when MAGA Mike is not willing to put things up for a vote. We can backdoor. So that's another way that we can, kind of flex some power, but that's dependent on, us being able to negotiate and pull some people from the other side, like play on their moral conscience, and have, their representatives or the people that they represent, rather, to contact them and put that pressure campaign on them, especially the people who are in these swing districts and places that have them more vulnerable to be voted out.
And I just want to apologize.
Go ahead, Del Rio. Go ahead.
I just want to apologize to the audience because MAGA Mike Johnson is from Louisiana, and I'm a Louisiana. So I just want to apologize to y'all because I don't know.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah.
But do you have something to add? Because once again, you're on Facebook and everybody is just, why won't they do something? Why don't they do something? And it just seems that they don't really understand what they have to do behind closed doors to try to make things happen. And if the other side isn't willing to cooperate, so what do you say? Well, how do you talk to people that are doing that? What do you say to them?
So we start with of course we have to work in real times, right? I mean, real time. Mm-hmm. Of course, I truly believe and agree with Kendall, because elections have consequences. 100%, they have consequences. But when we have gotten, beyond elections, right? When we have gotten to places where we have a government that, a Congress that capitulates to a president who has these authoritarian kind of instincts to him, and he just wants to steal elections, right? They are working on it right now, currently, as we speak. They are working on stealing elections. And I think we saw the power of the people from the movement in Minneapolis, right? It's still going on, but we do see the power of the people. You claw back power by getting out there and letting your voice be heard. You claw back power by, everybody will not, occupy the same spaces in protest. Some people will be online. Some people will be in person. Some people will walk the street. Some people will go to the capitals, right? Some people will go and protest at the homes of these representatives and leaders. And so I think we just have to take a different posture and understand that voting is serious. I remember there was this thing during right before the Obama years. I'm about to tell my age, but right before the Obama years, I remember there was this thing, Black folk in the neighborhood. Of course, that was when I had hair and I would go to a barbershop. Black men, especially, which is why it never surprised me the way that black men treated Kamala Harris, right? Because when we would go to the barbershops, we would hear these conversations about how my one vote doesn't matter. How it's just one vote. What is that, right? Until we realize that my one vote and the people around me, the people I have influence with, right? Having conversations with them about why our vote collectively matters. When the framers and the founders looked at this experiment called America, it wasn't about individualism at all. It was about us in this collective experiment, and how do we manage this collective experiment together? And so when we hear people making selfish comments about themselves and how their vote affects them, I have a relative who, they see everything that goes on. They are affected and impacted by everything that goes on, but refuses to vote. And I'm like, do you understand when you don't vote and when there are 10,000s of you who are doing the same thing? Do you understand how that affects the collective? But I think we are a country and a society that is so selfish. We are so selfish that we don't understand the collective mind frame and how we should be thinking about one another. That's why it's so easy for us to see ICE doing something to a neighbor and we're okay with it, or we stay silent as if we don't really care what's going on. Yeah, but when ICE does that to them, we have to realize ICE is coming down the street to us at some point, right? And so I just think once we get out of this individualism, this mind of individualism, and we move to this collective mind of taking care of one another, I think then we start thinking about what voting means to us.
Amazing. So now let's get into the current. And so let's talk about people's sense of care for their neighbor. So do you think that the people who voted for him, do you think that they're getting what they voted for, or are they upset? Actually, the question is, are they upset because they didn't get what they voted for, or are they upset because it's actually touching them and they did not think that it was? That's my question. Because they're saying, oh, the MAGAs are upset. The MAGAs are upset. So are they upset because he didn't follow through with what he said, or are they upset because this was supposed to be happening to the other folks? This wasn't supposed to affect us.
Yeah, of course, when it doesn't affect them.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's twofold. Oh, go ahead, Trent. You were saying something. Go ahead.
No, of course, when it doesn't affect them, they're okay with it. When they think it was just going to be, the same old rhetoric, the same old make sure black people are suppressed and, stuff like that. It's okay. But when it hits their backyard, then it's a different story. They bought into the lies. He didn't show up. It was something so simple as, I'm going to make groceries go down. And then it was like, when he got off, he said, well, the prices are already what they are, type thing, So he never had any will to even want to even do this shit for people. He just want this fucking power. It's all about power to him, to me. Yeah. He just, it's the biggest thing. Like, even when this guy got killed, he said, oh, he was a big fan of mine. And why are we worrying about somebody being a fucking fan of yours? Why are we worried about that? We got so many more pressing issues going on, and we worry about somebody being a fucking fan of you. This almost feel like some type of reality show. It almost feel like some type of script someone wrote, and we just don't know how the movie gonna end. That's just how it feel to me.
Kiddo, you're about to say something?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. When you look at how a lot of Republicans were, especially ultra MAGA, the movement members, a lot of them were trolls, and their whole premise was to own the libs, own the libs, own the libs. They weren't expecting, or they didn't know, I guess, through their willful ignorance, that a lot of the liberal agendas that were benefiting what they thought were just the black and brown people, that they were the biggest recipients of. Things like Obamacare, which is
Mhm.
also known as the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
They just hear Obamacare and they're like, oh, we got to get rid of Obamacare. Obamacare is trash. It's not working. It's this, it's that, and the other. And then when, he's made
I
all
just
these
seen that.
efforts to cut Medicaid, Medicare, all of these other things, and not renew the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act and things of that such, now they're feeling the effects of it. And they're like, well, I didn't vote for this. No, yes, you did. Y'all was just so stuck on the propaganda and it being labeled Obamacare that you didn't even take the initiative to like educate yourself on what you were talking about. You were just
Mhm.
like spewing rhetoric. You were just repeating the talking points that you heard Fox News and these other networks spewing. So it's like they have shit on their face now. And part of it, I think, is embarrassment. And then the other part is like these policies that he's putting into place with these executive orders and other things that are being voted on through Congress and the Senate. Like they're affecting the rural areas more than they're affecting, anyone else. Like I live in the state of New York. Like we're a donor state. So all of the cuts and things that are happening don't affect New York like they affect Texas, or like they affect some of the like Alabama,
Louisiana.
So
Retype that
yeah,
Greeley. Retype that Greeley because I think you didn't type it in its entirety. Because I want to know exactly what you said. So do you, to your point then, I want to ask you, Del Rio, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many people do you think actually research and educate themselves before they go to the polls? Do you think that they really know anything about the people that they're casting a ballot for? Or do you think that they actually look to see if they've been in public office before, how did they vote, what issues? Because what we naturally assume, and I hope these folks don't cuss me out and don't want to give me sponsorship after I say this. But everybody thinks because somebody's black, they should vote for the black person, or they say, because this person is a Democrat from our area, I'm going to vote for that person. How many people do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate that people actually research the people that they're casting a ballot for?
And are you asking about the entire country?
Period.
Oh, okay.
When they're
Yeah.
voting, when they're voting, period.
I mean, if I'm thinking about the entire country, I mean, I'm thinking maybe four. I would have to say a four, maybe.
Mhm.
I really don't think people do it. And let me tell you why I don't think people do it. Um, I've been guilty of it, right? I've been
Mhm.
guilty, and maybe not people. When it comes to people, I'm going to research them before I vote. But
Okay.
amendments on a local level, sometimes I've been guilty of it, and I have had to sit in the voting booth for longer than I wanted to, because I'm reading through it and I'm synthesizing and processing while I'm in the voting booth, when I could
Mhm.
have gotten this information long before I got to the voting booth, right? And so I think that number is low. I'm assuming or thinking that four is the
Mhm.
number. It could be two or three, but I just don't think people just automatically, because we're tribal, and
Mhm.
so when we see black, we vote black. When we see Democrat, if we're Democrats, we vote Democrat. When we see woman, we are women, we vote woman. We're really really tribal. I believe, um, but I think it boils down to which one of the tribes resonates most with you before you vote, because
Right.
it may be a black woman Democrat, right? And it may be a white male Republican. So take Trump and Kamala Harris, for example. 92% of black women voted for Kamala Harris. Um, I think the black male vote was somewhere in the 80s. Not sure exactly where it was, but I think it was somewhere in the 80s. Y'all
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not really sure, but I think it was somewhere in the 80s.
I
Um,
think so.
yeah,
This
and
is
so
what
I
I
think
think. Yeah.
I think there is I think there is, tribalism is always at play in our country when it comes to voting, and it's not always about policies. And the reason why you have to be really skeptical when it comes to policies. So Louisiana, I don't know if anyone knows this. Louisiana used to be, we used to have two Democratic senators for years. For years. We had a senator, his name was John Breaux. We had a senator, this is when I was a kid, named John Breaux, and John Johnston. We had a senator named Mary Landrieu for years. Her brother was the mayor of New Orleans. Um, Democrats from Louisiana are different. They are different
Mm-hmm.
types of Democrat. They're a different kind of Democrat, right? They're what we call
Mm-hmm.
in down in the South. They're what we call blue dog Democrats. They will vote. Um, they will vote fiscally, right? When it comes to money, when it comes to finances, they will vote with the Democrats. But when it comes to social issues, they will vote with their more conservative colleagues. And so even
Mm-hmm.
if I go into the polling booth and I see a Democrat there, that does not always mean that Democrats' values line up with my values. Now, for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know for sure, I have not found one Republican uh, uh, running for an office whose values align with mine. So that which is the reason why I'm a Democrat, right? But I think
Mm-hmm.
we have to have a very serious conversation about who we are electing as Democrats, right? We can't just elect Democrats because of name recognition anymore. Chuck Schumer needs to go, right? I think we kind of look at these people as steady hands, and they
Mm-hmm.
can't be steady hands. I do believe that. But there are other people in the Democratic Party who can represent the Democratic Party with the same vigor, and who I think have been, just an example. I'm not saying we should do this, but someone like AOC, who has been there long enough now, who has gotten a chance to really understand how Congress works. She may have not served any time in the Senate, but she understands how Congress works. I think someone like her, we should be moving into this new generation of leaders, because I think, the old guard, Mitch McConnell had to be walked out of the Capitol a few last week, walked out by two able-bodied men, because he is
Mm-hmm.
so old and so frail that he can't even function, within his duties in Congress anymore. And so what are we
Mm-hmm.
doing? We have created this gerontocracy, and we're okay with it. We're okay with it because we feel comfortable with these people leading. We don't feel comfortable enough to elect a black woman as the first black female governor of states. We haven't gotten to that point. I hope that's
Yeah.
going to happen in Illinois this go around, or in Georgia this go round. But we're battling and struggling with that right now.
Okay. So someone put in the comments that there are some Republicans that have black interest at heart as well. Do we hear from them, or do they rock? Do they kind of step out and stand out? I mean, because I don't hear from them very often. What about either of you?
What is the comment?
Because I'm trying to
That
find
there are
out who are those Republicans.
there are Republicans that have black interests at heart as well.
Like who?
Name one.
Greeley,
I'll
that's
wait.
Greeley, name them. They want you to name them now.
So while he gives us a little bit more context, because he's into politics, so he may have some people in
Mhm.
particularly that he
Yeah.
wants to talk about. So if you could give this so far, because we're a year in, a little bit over a year in,
A
what
year.
what grade?
This feel like 10 years.
Absolutely. What grade do you give Trump in this
F
administration?
and F and F.
Definitely an
Do I
F.
have to give a
Like,
clarification? Do I have to give
You
explanation of
you,
why?
no, you do not have to give
Okay.
an
Yeah, it's
explanation
an
why,
F.
because we're about to talk about some pieces. So
Okay.
let's first get into the economy. People say, oh, I voted for him because he's a businessman, or that he's going to know how to really shift things and make things better. What do you think? What is your analysis of what he has done thus far as it relates to the economy? Because as far as I can see, people are still struggling just as much as they have before.
Yeah, and if we
So
don't win
I'll say,
midterms, and if we don't win midterms, the people are going to be struggling even more. Like
Mm.
Trump is on a pathway to bankrupt this economy, just like he's done every business for the most part that he's owned, or I'll say
Yes.
allegedly. You know, like if you think about now, like he's suing the IRS, his own Treasury Department, for $10 billion, and there was a hearing that was held with the Treasury, with the Department of Treasury Secretary, I believe,
Yep.
and they continuously asked him and probed. So, do you have any decision, or do you have is the responsibility on you to approve any of this? Like, are you the yes man to say, okay, yes, I approve this, or are you what he described as the paymaster? So, like, Trump literally has the DOJ in the palm of his hand with Pam Bundy. He's suing the IRS, the Treasury Department, which is being handled by the DOJ. Like literally, the Department of Treasury Secretary today, well, in the hearing, basically just stated that if he's told to write a check for $10 billion to Trump,
Yeah.
he's going to follow the law.
Yeah.
He's going to write the check. So basically, Trump is just stealing taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah.
He's making moves that are enriching all of the people around him, the people who are the yes men to him. That's why you see so many networks capitulating to him, and following these pressure campaigns, because they want to keep their bottom line up, which leads to like the whole Target situation with them going back on DEI and all of that stuff. This is the first time, and I think they said 24 years, that Target was not on the Forbes list.
Yeah.
So again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the power that we have as people. We may not necessarily be able to do a lot in Congress or in the Senate, because we don't have those majorities. But when we put these pressure campaigns on these companies, these corporations, and everyone that Trump is trying to enrich, then we have some power. But I really, really feel like he's going to make things even harder for us. Like, where's the money, the $10 billion coming from? It's coming from taxpayer dollars. Like, this isn't the first time that he's sued. And then when you look at the clause that they put in one of the bills that passed before from the last shutdown, I think it was it wasn't a clean CR. It was the oh my God, I can't think of the name of it right now. But they put a clause in the Senate, and Lindsey Graham is like going all crazy about this, and he was just on television drunk as a skunk because he's upset because we aren't they removed the clause that allowed for senators to sue the government because their information or their phone records became a part of the Jan 6 investigation because of calls that they were having during that particular time. So it's just everything is a grift right now, and it's all at the taxpayers' expense. It's not going to get any better. Things are just going to get even crazier and crazier unless we get a check on this man, because like he's basically taking all the money for himself and his friends.
He was asked, the Secretary of the Treasury was asked by the ranking member of the House Banking and Finance Committee. He asked him, so where's this money coming from? And Scott Bessent said to him, it's coming out of the general fund. The general fund is taxpayer dollars, right? That is our money. Our money.
Yes.
That is not Trump's money. That is not the Department of Treasury's money. That is our money that we have paid as taxpayers. And he's going to give that $10 billion to Trump. This man is all about enriching his family, enriching himself, and buying influence with, you know, oligarchs and billionaires, so that he can control the major levers of our country, like the media, right? And like
Mhm.
sports teams, everything that he considers a major lever of our country, he is looking to control those things. And so what better way to control them by not just giving them tax breaks, you know, but in some instances just handing them cold hard cash money, just giving them money. And so yeah, I think we're in trouble if we don't go back to what we discussed earlier. If we don't go back to getting out here, you know, it and we've said it before, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so, you know, unfortunately people have had to die. Unfortunately we have had to see just certain things happen, you know. But do we not fight, and do we lose our country to a dictator and lose our rights, lose our liberties? You know, I'm not saying no life is worth any of this, but the fight is worth it. You know, and we're gonna have to fight, and whatever your interpretation of that fight is. You know, I implore you to get out there and do it.
Absolutely. And Rob made mention that, he's doubled, his net worth by $3 billion. And so we see all of this, right? We see all of this happening. And no, yeah, Joe, you're correct. Clinton was the last president to balance the budget. He left office with a surplus. And as soon as the next Bush came in, it went real fast. But so what do you think it is? Because people are saying, oh, they just go along with him because they are afraid that he will ruin their chances to be elected again. But they have just completely abdicated their duties. They just pretty much sit back and just let him do whatever it is that he wants to do. They get on to national, because we talked about this last time. They get on national TV. Everything is clear as day, but they will still, and don't get me started with the modern day Madam Morrible, Caroline Levitt. They will
Yes.
just sit there and just tell bald-faced lies. And
Yep.
then even when somebody facts checks them, they still stick to the lie. What is this about?
But it's easy
What
to
is
do that. It's
Mhm.
easy for them to do that because they have they have created this, you know, this media echo chamber on the right. And you, Fox News, Newsmax, these guys just put that, you know, when Rush Limbaugh was living, Sean Hannity, Joe Rogan, you know, he's trying to act as if he's found some type of independence. But those guys just on repeat put this stuff out there constantly. And so this man's followers, because that's what you have to call them, his followers, you can't call them Republicans, you can't call them conservatives, you know, because some Republicans and some conservatives do not follow him. But this man's followers just really they have been indoctrinated with this. And so when you indoctrinate them with these lies, and then you drop dog whistles in there, right? And so they already, some of them already, especially some of the white Christian nationalists, they don't like black people, right? And so when you start dropping those dog whistles in there, they're willing to they're willing to follow, even though they may not agree with him 100% on everything he says, but they're willing to follow because he's dropped those certain dog whistles, and they truly believe that, you know, black people are crap. You know, they truly believe that women don't deserve the rights that they have. They really truly don't want to see and acknowledge the existence of trans men and women. They are, when they get a hold of those dog whistles, they pretty much, you know, they move with that. And so for me, my understanding is just that Republicans in general, well, Republicans, but MAGA specifically, it is an ideological sect, and so they all just kind of do groupthink. They all think the same thing. They have these ideologies about things, and they just don't know how to move away from that. And I think we get stuck with people like that, especially when we involve race, and we involve misogyny, and then we involve homophobia and transphobia. They get stuck there. They just get stuck.
I
You're
agree.
muted, Dominique. You're muted. We
You're
can't
muted.
hear you.
Sometimes my finger don't move the cursor like it should. So, because I don't want anyone to think that we're attacking any particular party or whatever the case may be. So, when we talk about, is there a difference between a Republican, someone that considers themselves conservative, and a difference than that consider themselves MAGA? Because I don't want anyone to think, oh, they were just on there just to bash the Republican Party, and which is definitely not what this is about. So I
Yeah.
mean, so is there a distinction between the two? And
There
and
is.
and then when you talk about, there are some, well, she doesn't really call herself a Republican, she calls herself a conservative. There's a lot of people that have just switched to saying that they're conservatives, that I like, actually, that that I think have really great ideology, and they say some wonderful things, that they're totally not on board with everything that's going on. But what are you thoughts on that piece?
I think that there are some distinct differences,
Whoever,
and I
it
think
doesn't
the
have to be a long
person.
drawn out thing. Just
And I think the person who drew that line is Trump himself. He's often referred to anyone who doesn't go along with what he thinks, what he feels, doesn't vote the way that he wants them to vote, doesn't do what he wants them to do when he wants them to do it. He calls them rhinos, which stands for Republicans in name only. So he's the one who drew the line. Back to what you were saying, what we were talking about just a little earlier. I believe that Trump has a chokehold on a certain percentage of the Republican Party. And without that percentage of voters, the ones that he galvanizes by speaking to white fear, the ones that he galvanizes by, the demagoguery and the dog whistles and the microaggressions and racial undertones and things of that sort, like without those bodies, Republicans will never win another general election. So it's a numbers game for them. They know that if they don't do what Trump wants them to do, most of the time, then they're either going to get, primaried, or they're going to get someone like Elon Musk to drop a bunch of money on someone to, replace them or things like that. So I think that's part of the reason that some of the Republicans who, traditionally would not have gone along with a lot of the stuff that's happening, is going along with it now. Also,
yes.
the other part of that is they have ambitions of being a part of the party, like Marco Rubio. Like, he's completely flipped the script on everything that he said that he stood for, just because he wanted to be Secretary of State. And now, of course, I'm sure he has hopes of being president one day, so he's gonna go along to get along. And then Trump is a savage. Like, we know that he has no issues twisting arms, using whatever information he's found out about you, any little detail or mistake that one of these elected officials may have made in the past. I'm sure he's probably holding it over their head. And that's for everybody from the Supreme Court on down. I believe that he has dirt on them and has done a burn book just the same way any other political campaign would have done. And when you're speaking about the the Republican infrastructure as a whole, the organization as a whole, these are the ones who've buried the bodies of the secrets and the scandals and things for these elected officials for years. So they already know everything that there is to do. All they have to do is threaten you now and say, okay, well, we know this about you. If you don't go along with this, then we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. It's clear as day that he's not opposed to blackmailing or doing whatever underhanded thing he has to do in order to keep them in check. So yeah, that's pretty much the difference between Republicans and MAGA, and I think that's also the reason why.
Yeah, I think MAGA. When I think of MAGA, I just think like I think the Republican Party, they're ideological, but I think MAGA takes that to another level. It's more of a grievance-based politics that they do. It's more about what they call what they've termed as white replacement theory. They look at Black people, Hispanic people coming to take their jobs, and there's I think I'm not sure if there's the type of outreach, to some of these minority communities that would draw them to kind of make their party look different. I think at times you'll see shifts and patterns where Hispanic voters will vote with the Republican Party, and sometimes they will vote with the Democratic Party. So I think there are those shifts from time to time. But I do think there is a huge difference between, and it's my opinion, between MAGA and Republicans or conservatives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think
conservatives
are principled. I don't think MAGA. I don't think they're principled people.
Okay, Joe, when you say reverse discrimination, elaborate on what you're talking about, so then that these gentlemen can address what your concern is there. So I do want to kind of shift gears just a little bit, and let's move into a book that you put up last week that I have now that I'm absolutely loving. Is the book by Roland Martin, White Fear: How the Ground of America is Making. Yes.
Yeah.
Great book. And it's so interesting that which he loves her. Jane Elliott has been preaching on this for years. She has been reaching on. So do you think, especially as it relates to the immigration policies and everything that's happening as it relates to Black and brown people, is Roland's book on point, and is Jane Elliott's thoughts, are they on point? Is that because, what did we say last week, by 2040, 2045, on the face of the earth, minorities are going to be the majority in the world, or whatever the case may be, and that even holds true as it relates to the United States of America. Do you think that really is the source of their fear, and they're thinking, if we get rid of enough of them, this won't happen?
Kendall, you want to take it, or you want me to?
Well, as far as the book is concerned, I haven't started reading it yet. I did order it. I like to have a book in my hand. I don't like to do the Kindle thing, and I need pages I can turn. So I can't really speak to that yet. I have heard about it, and I think that from what I've heard, it does definitely speak to the white fragility and just they're being scared that we're going to do the same thing to them that they did to us. So I think that definitely has some merit. I think when you look back at the Nation of Islam, when we were going through the 60s and the 50s, and how they were just, we fight fire with fire. We don't bring knives to gunfights. You want to show up and you want to shoot us and do all of this other stuff, then guess what? We're meeting y'all with the same type of force. I think that put a fear in them that they have not let go, that they have not, been able to shake, even though we had, Dr. King, who was all about peace and positivity and, peaceful protest and, not scaring the white man, so to speak. You still had the Nation of Islam and the Malcolm X's of the world who, were going to get it out the mud, and they were going to do whatever they had to do, what I'm saying, to make sure that we were good. So I think that definitely plays a part. And what was the other part that you asked me about?
You don't make me forget. Well, I think I may have said something along like I think you pretty much hit on it. I was just saying, do you think that that's really the driving force of this ramped up campaign about with this all this immigration stuff with because I want to get into the ICE stuff and I want to get
Thank you,
into
Lord.
these horrible things that they have been doing in all of these states, which of course they're mostly targeting democratically led states, not really even targeting
Mhm.
states that have high levels of people that are immigrants. But yeah, so you really you already kind of hit the nail on the head. But Del Rio, you've read the book, so can you just give us a brief synopsis of what he says in there and what's the lesson he's trying to teach
Yeah,
in the book.
I think what he's doing is I think he is borrowing uh Dr. Elliott's her like some of the things that some of the themes that she
Mm-hmm.
has taught on, but what he's doing is he's taking it and he's personifying it in a way that folk will understand it from his lived experiences as a black man, right? Because
Okay. Mm-hmm.
it's one thing for so for us as black people living in black skin to hear from Dr. Elliott is one thing, but to hear from Roland Martin is something different because we live we have this as a lived experience. I think
Mm-hmm.
for her, it's good when white folk hear what she has to say, right? She
Mm-hmm.
can teach them, um, and I think that's what he sets up here. He sets up the um, I think he holds a mirror up to white America,
Mm-hmm.
and because in one of the areas he talked about how um, and he says, while the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So this is all the stuff he talks about when because it makes me think about when I hear black people, complain about, you know, our there's nothing there for us, right? There's nothing there. They're not, there are things there that specifically talk about us and our rights. But this is what he argues. He said, though we have all of these things, all of these necessary legislations and policies that are in place to give us the basic rights that we deserve. He said uh he said that there's one thing that he believes or one issue that he believes is at the core of all of this, and that's why the title of his book is White Fear.
Okay.
White fear is at the core of it. It doesn't matter that we have all of these laws and that we have all of these amendments and that we have all of these policies in place, right? Because at the end of the day, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
DEI was something that was cosplayed, right, as a black
Takes the fact that
policy.
it has something to do with
It was cosplayed as a black policy or a policy that only affected black people. And I think just as much as I think white folk didn't understand what DEI was, we didn't understand, and I'm speaking in general, as black
Uh-huh.
people, as a community, we didn't understand what DEI was. So when there was um, this prosecution of what DEI was, we kind of fell for it. Some of us fell for it, or
Mm-hmm.
there was some of us who didn't have a defense of it, and so we just said, "Yeah, you know, that's not us. That's just not about us." No, there's a better defense for that, right? Because if we really look at DEI has been used broadly in many sectors where white women, white men, white children of white women and white men have benefited from it for years, right? When we look at, um, let's just take legacy admissions to colleges. That's been happening for years. That's DEI. But we've allowed them to tell us that does not fall into the category of DEI.
Of DI.
And so I just kind of went that way. But basically what I'm saying is that Roland Martin really, I think, in my opinion, holds up this mirror to white America, so that white, now they're not really going to listen to Roland Martin, right? Because they look at him as a despot, as a radical, as somebody who's gone rogue. But the book helps us understand what we're dealing with when we are dealing in you know, boardrooms that, you know, we're the only one who looks like us inside of those rooms. And so we have to understand what we're dealing with, because if we never understand what we're dealing with, we're bound to continue letting it happen. We're bound to continue allowing that oppression to take place in those rooms that we're navigating through.
Correct. Because as we see, they're they're trying to eliminate the history of us. They're trying to take it out of schools, take it out of museums, and all those things, because from what they say, it makes them feel bad.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? Because
we don't makes white children feel bad is what I've heard, right? Because they didn't have anything to do with it. So why are we making them feel bad? But my thing is this: when we look at pictures of, the three young ladies who integrated the schools here in McDonough 19 in New Orleans, you can look and see the white anger on the faces of those adult women. I have the same argument there. I'm like, why were these adult women so angry with these children? These are children at the end of the day, right? And so we could look back at that and trace that back, to the lineage of some people who are living among us to this day. We don't know. That may be the grandmother, in those pictures. That may be the grandmother of one of our neighbors, or the great aunt of someone who works with me. You know what I mean? And so I just think a lot of times, there is this deliberate, there's this deliberate sweeping to the side of things, because I think sometimes white folk don't really want to have to deal with those things, and it's okay if you don't want to have to deal with it. But when you're dealing with Black people who know who they are, yeah, you're gonna have to deal with that, because we're gonna hold you accountable for it, and maybe not hold you in particular accountable because you didn't do it yourself. But if you're of that lineage, there may be this I personally believe, because Dominique, I don't want you to get in trouble at all. So I'm making an I statement. I personally believe that though white folk who live today, who may not have been a part of any of that from the past, I still think they still benefit from the privilege of everything that happened in the past. And so you may say you didn't do it, but I think you further you further this same mentality that this country has by not doing anything about it.
Yeah. And I think that everyone here, I mean, you won't get me in trouble because I cannot say that I disagree. Because even if you may not be a practitioner of those beliefs, you still benefit from it. It still happens, and you don't turn anything away because you say, oh no, I don't think that's right. You're gonna keep on going, you're gonna keep on moving.
Right.
But I want to continue to talk about the immigration thing. So thinking about the murders of Renee Good and Alex Pretty, people being detained without judicial warrants, people being profiled based off of accents and their skin tone, and all these methods that ICE is using. Do y'all think that it's time for ICE to be abolished and we start over? with something totally new? What are your thoughts about that?
ICE definitely needs to be abolished. Like, there's no coming back from like what's going on. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some form of, an immigration control, but ICE as we know it today, it has to be completely ripped down, reformed, and something definitely has to change with it, because it's just gone completely rogue. And I think that the masses of our country has lost faith in this particular federal agency. Kind of like when we were talking about police reform and defunding the police. I don't think that, even with the outrage from like George Floyd, I'm hearing something in the background. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, we're trying to figure out where that's coming from.
But even with the whole George Floyd like debacle, and how he was, unalived, and it created such outrage, I don't feel like it created the outrage amongst the other, or on the other side, that these particular deaths have created, because he was one of us. And now that you do have, the white folks, falling victim to this, I think that there's more of a movement to actually make it happen, as opposed to, us continuing to go down the same road. So I definitely feel like ICE needs to be abolished.
Yeah, I agree. Before we establish immigration and custom enforcement, we already had Border Patrol that dealt with the border, and we had the FBI. We had uh, bureaus inside the FBI that did enforcement. And so I think this type of uh, militarized, um, aggressive force, I don't think is needed in the streets of America, being used against uh, our own citizens. But I will say this, and I'll keep preaching this from my megaphone. The black lady warned us. She said this was going to happen, and we didn't listen. She said it many times. She made speeches about it. She had press releases about it. She wrote about it. She said this would happen, that he would turn the military on the people of this country, on the citizens of this country. And we still didn't believe her. We still didn't. And so, do I believe ICE should be abolished? Yes. Do I believe the enforcement should go back into a bureau inside the FBI? I do. Do I believe we need to be planning at some point as a country for a general strike that is akin to the general strike that Minnesota had, but I think on a bigger scale and for more days? I think we do. Because if we don't, they're going to. I tell the people at my job all the time when we're talking politics, I tell them, say, y'all, we're going to be taken. They're going to take us, from the movie Taken. Like, they're going to take us at some point, and there's going to be nobody who's going to explain to us what we're supposed to do when we're taken. We have to come up with those strategies, and so we need to get out there. And I really think that a general strike is going to be the direction we're going to have to go.
So with what in the world, Lord Jesus, help me. So if we abolish ICE, and then that's not in place, I'm going to go out in a minute, Trent, and then come back in to see if that's the issue. What do you see as a more effective alternative? Because to me, I just find it just really strange and really crazy that a country made of immigrants that took this land from somebody else and forced our way in, and then forced them to live on reservations, and they still live on those reservations. They can't vote or anything like that. So how does a country made up of people that don't belong here, that came from somewhere else, who are we to say that other people can aspire to the same thing that we came here for? Well, of course, we didn't have a choice. We were brought over here by force. But you get my point. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
out and I'm trying to come in.
Well, I'd say that what we absolutely need to do is, and we've been fighting to try to do this for a while now, and that's to like establish some immigration reform, some comprehensive immigration reform. Republicans have definitely stopped Democrats from doing that in the past, and then Republicans, when they've tried to do it, they've just gone so far right with some of their policies that it's been absolutely crazy. So I think that when the pendulum swings and we gain a majority, um, we've got to do that the same way we did with Obamacare. We've got to push that through. We've got to have immigration reform that handles like our DACA recipients, that handles, you know, that gives a pathway to citizenship, so that we won't have all of this like chaos. I mean, I think from the other side, we're always gonna get the pushback just because of what we've been talking about in this particular episode. You know, the white fragility, the white fear, that
Mhm.
we're gonna replace them, and you know, even even so one of the things that I saw that I was researching earlier today was the electoral college, and they're saying that, and because of the way that people are migrating to different states, Democrats are going to lose about 15 electoral votes in 2032. So when the pendulum swings in 2028, we've got to do everything that we can in order to counter that. Otherwise, it's going to go back to the same thing that we're pretty much in right now. It's this, that pendulum's going to swing back because they're going to have that advantage because the new census is going to, you know, go into effect and determine like who gets how many electoral votes per state or what have you.
I
It,
wonder if Kendall, I wonder if they solve for between now and 2032 the amount of new registered voters in these areas that are going to, you know, going to be of age. They're going to register to vote, and maybe they have they have then replaced those voters or those citizens who have moved and who now vote in other areas. I wonder if they've solved for that when they put out those type of projections.
Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening with that is that we're going to have states like Texas that are going to be leaning more purple, um, because of those demographics, and the new voters that are coming onto the rolls. That's why I think that Jasmine Crockett actually does have a potential shot at the Senate because she's going after her strategy is to specifically go after people who don't vote right now, which
And
is in a nutshell the same thing that Trump did. He went after those people who, you know, were in those rural areas who, you know, didn't necessarily pay attention to the news outlets. It was a grassroots campaign to knock on those doors to get those people who, you know, were just hanging out in their backyard with a beer, you know, get to the poll because this man's talking all of the stuff that you racist people been talking all of this time. So I think that's pretty much going to have to be our counter for that. Like we were talking about, just going back to the grassroots thing, but um, like it's gonna get crazy if we don't, even not just with the immigration thing, but if we don't look at it from a broader perspective and understanding that things are shifting with this census, you know, and that's gonna put us at a disadvantage later down the line, even though we have this momentum that we have now. So um, I don't necessarily know if we need to just go completely left in terms of what we do once we have the power again, but we have to be responsible with our choices so that we don't alienate and cause that pendulum to completely swing back and we end up in a, you know, in a pickle again.
yeah, I think I'm just curious about that, and I don't know. I'm just still stuck on that same point because I'm curious about that. I heard that a few times that, you know, because of the migration into these other
Hmm.
areas, that will possibly be an issue. But I'm really uh I'm really not stuck on it. At first, when they first said it, I was like, yeah, I understand that. But then now I'm just not really stuck on it because of the new voters who then come into the fold, right? And if a state like Texas that carries, if I'm not mistaken, 34 electoral votes, if I'm not mistaken, if you got a state like Texas that carries that huge amount of electoral votes, that's only third, I believe, to California and New York, and it becomes purple, and there's a chance that Democrats win that, right? You can offset some of the losses in some of these other areas that you probably will lose in. And so I just think it's definitely a numbers game. And it is a game of strategy. And like you're saying, I think it's to your point. We just have to be prepared to come to have a strategy going into 2028 and then into 2032. Yeah.
So Texas, I looked it up since you brought it up, because we always want to be based on facts.
Mhm.
They have 40.
40. Okay. That's even better.
Yeah. Texas has 40. So,
Yeah.
but and like Kendall, I know that people are just saying, "Oh, it's not possible," whatever the case may be. But in my honest opinion, if I ever thought anyone Black could win a state Senate race in Texas, I believe that she's the person that would be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's just a strong belief that I have, because I think that, I just see her as someone, because I mean, when you listen to her and you listen to things that she says, she's a defender of people. She never differentiates who she's advocating for. And so I think that she's going to really attract a lot of people, because she said during her initial polling, before she made the decision to get into the race, she said that one of the things that she asked was, she first did it without her. And she said, who are they? She thought the numbers were low. But then they did another round where she included herself on the ballot, and a lot of people who were not voting, they said if she was on the ballot, she would be someone that they would vote for. So I'm praying for her, because I think that she would just be absolutely magical there.
And Dominique, I think we underestimate the Black vote just in general, right? Louisiana has New Orleans, Baton Rouge. I think I said this last week. Just like Mississippi has, Jackson, and parts of their state that is the Mississippi Delta, that's predominantly Black. That if we really, churn those numbers and get those people out there to vote, I'm telling you, it will really tip the scales for candidates that we're in favor of, and who's in favor of the policies that we espouse ourselves to. But I think when we don't, when with Democrats, let me talk about them. When Democrats do not reach out to Black voters, the Democratic Party will not win. If you don't reach out to Black voters in the Democratic Party, you're not going to win. And that's why you see, us rack up these losses periodically, in these areas where, we had a governor's race down here that had a 30% voter turnout. That if just 5% of more Black folk would have turned out, we would have had a Black governor for the first time in Louisiana. And we just did not turn out to vote. And I think that is the thing. We have to understand what's on the line. And I think I pray that people are starting to wake up. I pray that they are waking up and understanding that we're in the midst. We're not 2-3 years out, because we're still in this presidency. So 2-3 years out would be 2 or 3 years after his presidency. We are on the brink of losing a democracy right now. We're on the brink of it. And if we don't wake up and we start voting and we start talking and we start advocating and we start, activating, we're going to lose it.
So speaking of losing our democracy, and him moving more towards an authoritarian type of leadership, what are y'all's thoughts about all these things that he's doing from a military standpoint, all of these strikes that he has done without even notifying Congress that he was doing these things. And then, of course, as we know, the last thing that he did was go over, well, first of all, the boat strikes.
Yes.
We can start there. But then he actually strikes the country, abducts the leader, brings him over here for criminal trial. I mean, what do y'all think about that? And then once again, no, other than one side, nobody's speaking up saying you don't need to do that. You don't that's not okay. They're just saying, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. So what do you all think?
It goes back what we were talking about earlier. Like, this is another way for him to enrich his oil buddies. That's just a ploy for oil. It's also a distraction from everything going on with the Epstein files. Like, distraction. Change the narrative, change the news headlines for the day, get the heat off of him, have you focus on something else while he's working on his next distraction. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, there's, as far as people not speaking up, I mean, from the Democratic perspective, I feel like they're speaking out. The ones that can are outraged and they're saying, what they can. But again, like, we don't have the power other than in the judiciary for us to be able to, to stop what he's doing. If we bring up articles of impeachment, we don't have the numbers right now to impeach him and then convict him. So it'll just be another impeachment.
Yes.
It's like, we're just kind of, again, elections have consequences, and this has us stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Anyone else? You want to talk about that a little bit?
No, I agree. Totally agree.
Okay, great. So do you think that our foreign policy is driven more by human rights, or is it just all strategic interest?
I think it's just driven by Stephen Miller, right? I just think everything that Trump
Jackpot.
does is just driven by this evil little guy in the White House. I do. What his, I think that there is, his ploy is to just, wreak havoc. Trump needed to go on this revenge tour, and the best way to do it is find the most evil political strategist you could find to guide him on this revenge tour, and that's who he found. And so I just think that's purely what it is. I don't think Trump. I don't think Trump has the brain cells to think of some of this stuff. I don't. I don't think he is capable of thinking of a lot of this stuff. I think Stephen Miller will go down, excuse me, in history, not in a good way, but will go down in history as one of the most consequential, presidential advisors there were. Because I really think he really controls Trump like a puppet. Trump is old. He is, I think he is demented. And I really don't think that a lot of the things that are coming out of his mouth or decisions that he's making. I think these are decisions being made by advisors, and that I think that's the dangerous part about this.
Okay, wonderful. So what are your thoughts about just the U.S. democracy moving forward, period? And then after everything that is happening, we know 4 years it can take us almost 10 to try to fix all of the mess that has happened. So what do you think about the future of the U.S. democracy? And what are the steps
Brazil too.
Brazil, That
Hello.
and what do you think that we as people, and I'm not talking about just as Black people, but as a country, what do we need to do to try to right this ship?
So if I can jump in there, if you don't mind, I think that so what's been annoying me this entire time as a veteran is everybody keeps saying that the Democrats need to get their messaging correct. We need to learn how to reach voters. But if you think about it, it's not the messaging that the Democrats need to get correct. It's really our mind frames on how we look at who's leading the Democratic Party. We've been taught in this country from the beginning that we do not trust women, we do not trust people of color, we do not we trust white men. They're the ones that make the right decisions. So every single time it comes up to the Democratic saying something, it is overshadowed by the fact that they're a woman or that they're a person of color. It is completely overshadowed. So the messaging is not wrong. It is how we view the people giving the message. We don't. Women have told us twice what this man would do to our country. We decided to not believe them as a country, not because they were not qualified. It was because they were women. It wasn't that they weren't telling the truth. We did not want to believe them because they were women. So it is far more than just what the Democrats say. They've been saying all of the right things the entire time. No one cares because of who is saying it.
Well, I think that's where another thing that we've been discussing is like who's giving the messages, because the reality is we're in a world where like I don't feel like America is ready for a woman president, and that's because of what we've seen in the last two elections where women have been at the top of the ticket. Even Black men have this thing where women belong in they belong in the house, in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant. That's kind of like that's a lot of men who have that perspective. So I guess my thought process is, even if we have a woman at the top of the ticket, we have to do better from a messaging point in terms of who we're sending out as surrogates to these particular spaces. For instance, in the barbershops, when we're talking to our peers, when we're going to get our lineups and things like that, we can speak to them in ways that, a white man going wouldn't be able to. Like, we have to make this a daily conversation. It's not just about what's being said, it's about who's saying it. Like, if each of us take the initiative to speak to those around us and make the message relatable, we can find talking points and find things that the Democratic Party is doing, or that the Republican Party is against, or doing to target certain demographics that we can speak to these individual voters about. I think that one of the problems is we keep looking at the big tent and thinking that we have to have a message that just speaks to everybody from a general standpoint, when we can make our messaging more specific to those different demographics.
I really feel, I don't really feel like it's the messaging. I really feel like it is the comprehension of the people that is receiving the messaging.
But that has to do with education and their
Precisely, which goes
ability
back
to understand that messaging. So that's why I say sometimes we have to like cater it to them in a way where they'll be able to understand it. And just coming from the politicians, it's not going to be understood by people who don't understand politics. And I think that's where we get confused a lot of times.
But so with that, I think that when it comes to like the education part of it, that's why Trump says educated people do not like him. Most Black folks that voted for Trump or believe in the Trump isms is because a lot of them still and their families are still in that mind frame of that white man is going to save us.
So do you think that we can change that? How they think in terms of that?
Now, in my opinion, I think that we need to free ourselves from that mentality.
Yes.
We have to stop thinking that that's what we need. Because I think that there have been times in this country where we have proven that we can be self-functional, we can be self-efficient, but because we were doing those things, they tore those things down. And so I think that,
And
to
the
be honest
history
with you, I think,
history of us doing
and I
those
just,
things have been erased. The history
and
of our
I just
people.
think, and so I just think that once we change our own thinking, and we put our foot on the gas and we press forward, and we don't allow ourselves to, because I mean, if we're going to be fighting for our lives anyway, well, then it may as well be for the betterment of us. I mean, if that's where we're going. But back to what Savannah had said earlier, that whole misogynistic, and this is not about you, I'm just talking about, because I know that that's what people say about women, because a lot of people feel the same thing as it relates to female pastors. I think that is total utter bullshit. And I think it's so stupid, because here it is. Let's be very, very clear. Why is it other countries can see fit to elect women, but we are the only dumbasses that do not see the strength that women can have as it relates to being lead? I'm just gonna.
But my question is, are we really dumbasses, and do we not really see it, or is this deliberate? Because I don't think we're dumbasses. I don't think we
Oh,
don't see it. I think it is. I
I said that.
deliberately. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, but I think we deliberately do this. A lot of it is because of, you know, the way that we've been indoctrinated. I think we saw certain things, and I'm not gonna go here tonight. We could find another way, another time to have this conversation. But you know me, I study religious trauma, and I think that a lot of it is just it's based in religion. It is that is where we got the message, and we
Yes.
got the message in religion. And when we left the church house, we got the message. When we went out to eat after church, the message was
Yes.
then reinforced. When we got home that evening, it was reinforced again. When we went to
Yes.
school, that same message was reinforced. And so I think a lot of it is us unlearning what we learned
Yes.
at church, and
Yes.
the stamp of approval on it was
Mhm.
God, right? We use
I
God as
agree
the
with you.
stamp of approval on it. And I think there's some unlearning we have to do, but that's another whole conversation. But I think that's
Yeah.
the root of it. That's just my
Yes.
But
opinion.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
and I think that you hit the nail on the head. That I totally agree that is the root of where this all came from. I believe that wholeheartedly.
And we and
We are.
we and we take it, we take religion, and we couple it with the founding documents, the founding
Mhm,
of our country, how we
mhm,
treat one another. I mean, we couple it with everything. When I can read, and y'all, I'm not gonna go on this tangent, but I'm gonna just say it and I'm gonna move on. When I
okay,
could read
wrong.
a Bible, read a book that we endorse as, and I'm a Christian. Let me first say that before I
Yeah,
make this statement, because I don't want that to be um, misunderstood at all. I'm a Christian. I believe
absolutely. Come
in
with it.
Christian values.
Mhm.
I do. But when
Yes.
we totally and completely believe that what we read in what is today's Bible,
Hmm.
I'm not talking about
Hmm.
the original text, but what we
Right.
believe in what is today's Bible, and we take that and we use that to justify everything that we do, and we
Hmm.
use that to excuse everything that we do, and we use that to
Hmm.
give context to everything we do. I think we do ourselves a disservice, because what we're reading, it's not the original intent. What we're
Yes.
reading is also
A version.
not what is not cemented. What we're reading is supposed to be a guide, a tool, not what you're supposed to do exactly. Because if we really want to take this thing literally, right? The Bible talks about slaves. The Bible talks about wearing mixed linens, right? The Bible talks about men who lay in the same bed or in the same house under the same roof with their wives who are on their who are going through
That's
menstruation,
true.
right? So there is a lot of stuff that if we really want to take the Bible for what it is, and we don't look at it as a guide or a tool for how to live, yeah, we are really selling ourselves short doing that, because we have allowed the oppressor to teach us what life is through the Bible. And look at the Bible. Most of it, when you look at the history, just the historical books, it's about oppression. That is what it's about.
And I feel
To
like
your
even
point, real quick, Savannah, real quick. To your point, for my first 2 years of college, I went to a HBCU. Shout out to Philander Smith College. And so we had a professor that taught a class called Philosophy and Religion.
Yeah.
He brought up that point because he says, I've done extensive trips to Israel. He says, I've read some of the original text. He says, these translations that you all had, I mean, when I tell you the classroom was getting upset. He said, these translations, you guys, you are way off. And so this girl said, I don't believe what you say. I don't believe what you say. So he said, do you take a foreign language? She said, yeah. She said, I took Spanish. She said, have you ever heard anybody say, she said, have you ever talked to a Spanish speaker and they say, and you say something to them in English and they say, there's not a way to say that in Spanish. He says, it's the same way with how this Bible went from its original text to what you guys are doing now. There are some ways not to say certain things, so people just made it up as they went along to suit the needs that they had or the mission that they had when they were doing what it was that they were doing. But anyway, I'm sorry, Savannah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm not even supposed to call you yet, Bray.
No, it's okay. And that's what annoys me about the Black church, because most people don't even know who King James was. They preach Bible like it is absolute complete fact, and I believe that it was derived from fact. But on the beginning of the book, it says King James Version. That is a version of the truth. And Scripture teaches us, it says, to study to show thyself approved. If you really want to know about Scripture, you won't just contain yourself to those 66 books, because God is way larger than the 66 books. And it just annoys me that that's where we're stuck at. And then the same book that they kept us in slavery with, the same book that they oppressed us with, has now become the all in all for us and our community. And again, I love God with all of my heart and soul. However, God is bigger than the 66 books. And you cannot sit up and tell me that you love God and you have no idea who King James is. But you're reading his word. And we say this is the true, unadulterated word of God. Nothing should be added or taken away from. But nobody has ever even thought to go back to read the original scrolls and what it actually meant for that time.
Yeah. And that scripture you quoted, I always talk about that. Like, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not be ashamed, rightly divide the word truth. I always say, if there's a right way to divide it, there is a wrong way to divide it.
Yes.
Right? So we got to realize that when we are looking at it, and for the folks who are listening to us, y'all, there's still politics, right? Because this is the politics of religion that we're talking about right now, right? And it drives a lot. Let me not say a lot.
And they're using this
everything
to change the country.
Huh?
They're using religion to change the country to a dictatorship.
They are. And they really want it's in my opinion, it's this cosplay. I'm using religion to change the country, but I really don't want the religion that I'm using. No, because if I have to take the religion that I'm using, that means that I have to treat the immigrant or the alien who is foreign. I have to treat them like they're from here, like they are local.
The reason I would say they don't is because the world symbol of Christ is a white man, blue eyes and blonde hair. Scripture does not teach us that is what Christ looks like. So essentially, most people are not even worshiping God. It's an idol. That is why Christ-like. We're not Christ-like. People are not doing what Christ would do and acting the way Christ would act, because they're not worshiping the real Christ. They're representing an
image
idol that is
of what they
supposed
think.
to.
So why do you feel like they would have that as the image of Christ and not what is in the Bible?
Why do you think? Because they don't be one, how would it look for the people that held us in oppression to say we are worshiping a black man, a man of color? Our savior is a man of color. Meanwhile, we're saying that we are the dominant race. We are the savior race. We are the smart race. Meanwhile, our savior is a man of color.
Wow.
Yeah.
We can't do that. Because it goes against everything that we have preached and taught and indoctrinated in people of color.
I think everything that we're saying right now hits the nail on the head as to why it's so difficult, as I was saying, to change the mindsets of these people who are voting. Like it's going to be difficult for us to get a woman in office as long as we have this generation of individuals who have those thoughts. But one thing that I do love, it's almost like it's kind of like an oxymoron. Is there's the good and the bad of it. I love the fact that people are moving away from the church as it relates to religion, and people are becoming more spiritual and finding relationship with God, because that allows them to move without the dogma, without the doctrine that causes us to have these misogynistic thoughts as it relates to who can hold power, what they're capable of doing, when they can do it, how loud they can speak, and things of that sort. So I have hope that the new generation of voters is what's going to end up saving us, because this new generation, they're not on that going to church every Sunday, and the only thing they're doing every Sunday is scrolling TikTok
And brunch.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
And branches. So again, I think like it goes back to messaging. Like we need to be like preaching a younger message, preaching a message that resonates with this generation of voters that's coming up. Like I think Wendell brought it up the last time we talked about it, about us engaging, the future voters, people who can't even register to vote now, and engaging them on civics and explaining how everything works, and teaching them the history of where we were and how it took us over 100 years just to establish some form of rights, and even then they took us through everything, to even give us those rights, the grandfather clauses, and us counting how many jelly beans in a jar, and poll taxes, and all of this other stuff that we had to endure just to have the right to vote. The only way that we're going to save our democracy is if we galvanize on a grassroots level. Each one teach one. And make it plain. Write the vision, make it plain. Make it keep it simple, stupid. Like break it down to people in a way that is relatable to them, that they can understand it, and not just speak all these talking points. Because a lot of the times when we're trying to engage voters, they feel more excoriated, or feel like we're talking down to them, or that we're being condescending because they don't know certain things. Like we've got to do our due diligence to teach those around us, and then give them the messaging to go and tell their homies and their bros, yeah, man, you got to go vote, man. Y'all heard what Trump doing? Like they trying to take us back to slavery. They trying to, just making it plain and simple, as opposed to, yeah, if we don't do this, then the Affordable Care Act is gonna lose its subsidies, and we're if we don't do a discharge position, then we're not gonna be able to do it. They don't know what any of that stuff is. So when I speak of messaging, that's what I'm speaking to. Us is how we communicate to the people around us. And I think too often we expect our leaders to be the ones that's disseminating that information to everyone. That's where we personally become the surrogates. We don't have to be employed by the party. We don't have to be on their roles or their rosters to do so. When we know what we know, we can go and we can speak to those people with conviction, and hopefully tell them something that makes them open their eyes, even if they aren't for a woman being in elected office or being the head of a country, or whatever it is, whatever entity it is that they're running for, whether it be a governor or a president what have you. Like, look, I understand that you're not necessarily cool with the woman being in leadership, but hear me out on these particular facts. If we don't get someone to check this particular administration into this office, like, these are the consequences that could happen. These
But
are
it
the things that could be,
but it goes back to an understanding of how these three branches of government work together. Because at the end of the day, even if you don't want a woman to be the president, understanding that she does not make the laws, right? She does not get to interpret the laws. She can
Mm-hmm.
only execute the laws that are made and interpreted. That's it. And so if we understand that, it's easier for them for listen, I'm not making no excuses for misogynistic men. I think they're shitty.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
pieces of shit, right? Let me just
Wow.
be honest.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
if I'm trying to be diplomatic with a misogynistic man, sir, understand that that woman, she has the, but Trump, Trump is a serial narcissist. He
Rapist.
loves it, that too. He loves attention. He soaks up the moment, right? And he's good at this. That is not 100% what the presidency is supposed to be about, right?
right.
They are supposed to have a bully pulpit. We understand that. But the president is supposed to be a more resolved person. It's supposed to be a thoughtful person, right? Because if I'm sitting in a room and I have 12 cabinet members giving me their opinion about this one thing, I'm going to have to make a decision based off of all of this information that I'm taking in. And I don't think this dummy can do that, right? Which is why he has Stephen Miller there to then make those decisions for him. And so I think if we get people to understand that the presidency is the way it is supposed to be, the presidency in all of its workings is inside of a branch that then has a check on other branches and has checks on itself. But I think when people don't know that, they really just think, oh yeah, the president is the head, he makes all of the decisions. But that comes from our understanding of what a man is as it relates to religion, what the Bible has taught us about men and leadership, right? Because the man is supposed to be the head. So I just can't fathom a woman leading my country because men are supposed to be the head. I have several coworkers who just totally believe that, and they are black women. They did not vote for Kamala Harris. They stayed home because they could
Mm.
not fathom a black woman, I'm sorry, being in control or in charge or leading a country because of their religious beliefs.
And the craziest part is a woman was the most qualified person ever to run for
The,
the office of
the
president.
most
2
person
times.
Twice.
twice.
The
Twice.
women,
Yeah, twice.
most
Definitely twice.
qualified people ever to run for the office of president.
And
Ever.
this, and let's be
Yeah.
honest, this second one is the only one who served in every branch of government.
Yes.
Of government.
Every
you have
branch
it.
of government.
Yes.
You know?
You
Yes.
all, I would love to go all night, but I would love to go all night, but in Brazil, I'm sorry you weren't able to come in a little bit earlier, but we do intend to continue because I think that we, once again, as we said before, I don't know the name. Trent, wrap it up.
First of
I don't
all,
know
we
if
want to give two things. We want to give a congratulations to Ken Dodd for capturing the title Mr. GQ this past weekend.
Congratulations.
That's an amazing feat. He has some new panties on for us, honey. Showing
Pink.
body. And happy birthday, and thank you for spending your birthday.
Thank
with us.
you.
I know you could have been doing
Happy
so many
birthday,
other things.
brother.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank y'all again for coming in with us and talking politics. It's not always easy to talk about because everybody has so many conflicting views, and even the people that will tune in still will have questions and stuff. So we have to like beat this in people's head. And you made such a great point there, Real. We got to unlearn some stuff. And we have to employ our people around us to unlearn this thing that's been indoctrinated in us to make us believe that we can only think one way.
Yeah.
We have to be progressive. We have to do what's best. Even if y'all don't think a woman should run, if she's the best candidate, then we got to go. Since when don't we pick our best? Since when?
Mm-hmm.
Bring your
You
best
go out, you pick
bitch.
your best outfit.
Right.
You find friends, you find your best friend.
Yes.
You know, you do everything your best. Then we get candidates. How are we not going with the best candidate?
Right.
Come on now. We
That's
got to
good.
think a little more logical than what we've been doing. And I implore everybody to unlearn some stuff that you need to unlearn. Take yourself out of bondage and add some freedom to it, because our shit is getting taken away right in front of our face. Shit is happening that ain't supposed to be happening. We got regular motherfuckers coming out dressed up, shooting motherfuckers and call themselves ICE. That's because they cold as a motherfucker. You know, so we really got to do this thing. We have to get our registered vote at vote.gov. Make sure y'all are registered to vote. We will say it 100,000 times until we blue in the face, and we hope that we blue in the race. Okay.
That's good.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
I like that.
I love it.
I love that too. I love that too. And hopefully I can get this group to join us at least once a month so we can continue.
Yeah, as much as we
We don't
would.
want you guys to forget anything that we're saying. And we're not doing this because we think you're stupid. We're just doing this because these are conversations that we need to have. I don't know what's going on with my thing, y'all.
Can I ask
But I'm
Dominic and Trent, can I ask y'all a favor? Not just because it's what I do, but it's because I think it is important. Can you find some space at some point to talk about and let's discuss the role of religion in our country and how?
Oh, I would love that conversation.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna do that
Well,
soon.
last week we initiated that. We have some faith leaders that are willing to come in. So let's definitely do that. I love that.
All right. Thank y'all so much. Thank everybody for tuning in tonight, spending these couple of hours with us. Thank you, panelists. I really appreciate y'all. Bottom of my heart, I really do. Thank you, Dominique, for doing this Thursday with me, y'all. We'll see y'all next Thursday. And we out this thing.
Good night.
Good night.